Hello everyone, this is Ziki here and I am back with our introduction to China video, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the China-Africa relationship, but I'm not really going to touch on the criticism and everything, but I'm going to look at another aspect of it, which is doing business. All right, so we know that when the Chinese are coming to do business in Africa or anywhere else or any other country doing business with another country, there are certain things that they look at, and I've been privileged enough to attend different forums where China-Africa business forums are held, discussions are made. Sometimes I even attend forums for Chinese only, where they discuss policies, where they discuss some of the dangers of doing business in Africa. And number one thing that is important of Chinese that they always talk about or pay attention to when they're doing their market research and analysis is the political environment or political stability. They are very, very much concerned about that. Of late we know that there have been some disturbances when it comes to political issues in Africa. And I remember when Zimbabwe was about to have its elections, when you attend these forums, when you're talking to the Chinese about doing business in Zimbabwe, they were like, well, we first of all need to know how it's going to be after elections, who is going to come into power. So all those things are very, very important as well. Same applies when President Hakainde Hichilema was coming into power. We know that China and Zambia, they had to go through some talks and everything. So they're afraid that maybe with the change of president comes a change of policies and everything. And some presidents, they are not really keen on, this China-Africa relationship thing. So they are very much concerned about, number one, political environment of a country, because they believe that the political system is very, very important. Okay, some African countries, they've got one party states, democracies are different than the monarchs. So all those things, they will be talking about the stability and transparency of political system, and they say they have got a direct impact on business operations. Okay. And I need to laugh off this one, okay, because my earring just fell down and I need to put it back before we continue with our video, okay? These are some of the things that happen when you're live on camera, but anyway, it's okay. We have put it back. Ta-la. Anyway, as we continue, like I said, I was talking about the stability and transparency of political systems, okay? Since they say this has got a direct impact on business operations, elections, and power transfer, examine the government's electoral system and electoral process, as well as the peaceful transfer of power, which can reflect the country's political stability. They also say political stability is considering the political stability of each country. Political instability may have an adverse impact on businesses, including supply chain disruptions, investment uncertainties. Okay, international relations, understanding a country's diplomatic relations with other countries, and its degree of cooperation with international organizations can help assess the political risk of doing business with some of these African countries. I am using Africa because we're just focusing on China-Africa relationship. But all these things that I'm talking about can also apply to any other, countries doing business together, okay? So number two is Number two, they're talking of the demographics, okay, demographic analysis. So say population size of a country countries have different population sizes, all right, and then understanding the size of the potential market can help assess market potential. Okay, so population density, analyzing population density, especially the difference between urban and rural and peri-urban, all those, to identify key areas of your target market. Okay, also the age structure, consider the proportion of the population in different age groups to adjust the product and advertising strategies to meet the needs of different age groups. Urbanization trends, also understanding urbanization trends and forecast market demand in cities and peri-urban areas. Okay, so what I did is I made a list of these things on my blog. Okay, for those of you who don't know, I've got a blog that is called iAfrica24. This is where you can find these things. Number three is geographical analysis. Okay, geographical analysis, they're talking about geographical features like the African continent is vast, which means it's very, very big and includes various terrains such as deserts, plains, mountains, and jungles. So these characteristics influence product distribution and logistics. Okay, climate differences in different regions are large, considering the impact of climate on product demand, such as seasonal products or climate sensitivity products. Okay, so this is another thing that they look at there. or anyone willing to do business should also consider these things. They also look at these things. And also religious differences. They also, like, many religions are found in Africa. We have Christians, we have Islams, we have traditional religions, and many other emerging religions. So this is very, very important as well. They say geographical distribution of religions are unevenly distributed in different regions. For example, in North Africa, is mainly Islamic, while Southern Africa is mainly Christian, and they also have some traditional regions. Okay, so those things, again, the things that they also consider, say, the manifestation of religion in daily life. Religion in African societies often permeates all aspects of daily life, affecting people's behavior, festival celebrations, and social interactions. So it's also very, very important that they understand these things. Okay, then the next thing that they look at is cultural differences. Okay, when we're talking about cultural differences, we're talking about the ethnicity, diversity of Africa, which is very, diverse, like so much diversity, like so much. Okay, and each group has unique cultural traditions, dances, music, artistic expressions, the do's and don'ts, and the customs. Everything is very, very fast. So that is also another important aspect that they look at when they're doing their market research and analysis. The next thing that they look at is language differences. Of course, we already know that language is very, very important. In Africa, we have various kinds of languages. We can talk of, if we're not talking of official languages, we can talk of English, we can talk of Swahili, we can talk of South Africa, we can talk of Afrikaans, isiZulu, many other languages. Portuguese is found in Africa, so there are so many different kinds of languages that are used in Africa. So they have to understand how they're going to distribute their information, in what language is spoken in what particular country that they want to deal with. Okay, let's move on to the next aspect. Here is analysis of consumption habits. Okay, so shopping behavior. Okay, so research the shopping preferences of consumers in the target market, including the proportion of online and offline shopping frequency, etc., brand awareness, understanding consumers' awareness and the preferences of brands to develop brand promotion strategies. Okay, because you might come to a country where they only believe in Gucci, okay, and then you're bringing in your product. Maybe people might look at it with the sideways, like, is this even real? We have seen it when it comes to phones, whereby if a product it's a phone, is a Chinese phone, we quickly consider it to be this phone is it's a Chinese phone, then it's a no, because we already understand that Chinese phones, they're not good. So if someone is going to come into a market, with a Chinese branded phone, then you have to understand that you are going into a place where people really don't appreciate Chinese phones because they believe they are very, very poor, even though Chinese phones could be one of the best phones that can ever be there. Okay, or even though most of these phones that people use, regardless of brands, they're made in China. So that also is very, very important as well. And also looking at the payment habits. Okay, analyze consumers' payment habits, including the proportion of cash, do they use cash, electronic payments, debit orders, whatever kind of payments that are made in that country. This is also help, in doing your market research and analysis and coming up with a product that is going to be viable for you. Okay, and also product preferences. What products, determine local preferences of products, features, packaging and pricing to adjust product design and pricing strategies. Okay, the impact of culture on consumption. Consider the impact of cultural behavior on consumer behavior. Okay, so all those things are things that they look at when they're doing their market research. I took these things from a manual of a forum that I attended where they were talking about these things, giving each other a heads up. Okay, and also another thing that they look at, they were like, well, you also need to consider your security. Security is very, very important. In some environments, they are full of, crime rate is very, very high. So they'll tell each other like, well, you have to be aware of some parts of Africa, they are very, very violent, or criminal activities are very, very high in certain areas. So they always tell each other that, all right? Anyway, then another issue is the regulatory environment, business legal systems. Different countries may have different business legal systems, and understanding these legal frameworks is crucial for business. This is also that is very, very important. Okay, intellectual property rights, foreign investment regulations, labor regulations, tax regulations. There are also other things that are very, very important, when doing business. Okay, so like I said, this is only focusing on, Chinese, what they look at when they want to do business, or they're looking at doing business in Africa. These are some of the things that they look at, okay? And also, I've also already given a disclaimer that this is not only isolated to China, Africa, but it is also a business in general. These are some of the things that people look at, okay? Now, other considerations, of course, China is very, very particular when it comes to corruption. They pay much attention to the corrupt activities of a country. If a country is continuously being, reported in cases of, corruption, then they are doing business with you is also like very, very cautious. They treat cautiously when they're dealing with countries that are enlisted as number one in corruption. Because in China, even though corruption is everywhere, but in China, they've got a very stiff penalty for any corrupt activities, okay? So that is why it's not very rife like we see in other countries where people openly do corrupt activities, like openly, without even fear or anything. And this is what I also have seen many countries in Africa not developing because corruption is rife, So when it comes to doing business, China really looks closely in terms of corrupt activities, even though sometimes they benefit from some of these corrupt activities. There have been claims a lot of, how they get their tenders to do businesses in Africa and everything that usually is more about the red envelope, corrupt activities that lead them to get some of these contracts, okay? Even though they also want to make sure that after they got whatever they get, through corrupt activities, they also want to make sure that they're also kept, safe from all this that they happen, okay? So these are some of the things that they look at. So they look at corruption problems in Africa. They say it's very, very rife, so they want to see the anti-corrupt mechanisms, and regulations relevant to each country when it comes to dealing with corrupt activities. And also social stability and people's livelihood conditions also have a direct impact on the long-term operation of enterprises. So they'll look like, well, if they want to go and invest in Zimbabwe, how are the people of Zimbabwe living? What is happening there? Do they even have enough cash to throw around to buy this product that we're bringing in, of which I would say currently in Zimbabwe, I don't know, like I said, I don't want to go into particular countries, all right? And then legal dispute resolution mechanisms, okay? This is one thing that is also very, very important, okay? Understand the mechanism and the efficiency of legal dispute resolution in order to seek legal relief when necessary. Like recently, we have seen Chinese being attacked in different countries where, they've been beaten in mines, they've been beaten in several, other business where they operate, they've been beaten by locals, or they run into disputes with locals who are saying, well, you're coming in, taking our businesses, you have to go away. We saw this thing happening in Namibia where EFF Namibia was chasing away, Chinese, asking them to close their shops and everything. So they look at those things to say, how does the government deal with such things when they happen? Do Chinese have the rights, if they go to court to report these cases, how are these cases being dealt with? So those are some of the things, again, that they look at when it comes to doing business in Africa. So I have mentioned quite a number of things that, they look at when they want to go and do business in Africa. But I'm going to come back again with more specific things that they look at country by country or region by region. I'm going to bring you, those videos like that. Okay, so my name is Ziki. So today we looked at, market research and analysis that is done by the Chinese when they want to go and do business in Africa, which I feel like even Africans also do when they want to go and do business in any other country, or even individuals do when they want to do business with anybody else, okay? So this thing is just overall, but like I said, I am just using China, Africa as my point of departure, all right? So this is why I'm covering it just like that. We spoke of corruption, political instability, demographics, religion, culture, language. Those are some of the things that they look at. So until I come back again with another video on introduction to China, please subscribe and stay so that you don't miss on this and more. And I'm coming back again with some football news. Until then, take care.